Hello and welcome to the Shoni Island features series. In this series, first episode, we're going to be looking at some features from our up-and-coming release, Shoni Island. This first video, we're going to talk about the God Hand. So, inspired by Black and White, you play as a god in Shoni Island. You're controlling your little AI minions, and the God Hand is the physical embodiment of your presence on the island. You are able to move the hand around. You can drag the camera by moving to the edge of the screen. You can also hover over objects. They'll be highlighted when you're over them to tell you which object you are currently hovering over. You can grab villagers and move them around. You can move them onto certain parts of the level which will inspire them to do certain tasks. Tasks we'll talk about in a future video. You are also able to BAP your villagers. We have two different types of BAPs. BAP level 1 is just a simple tap on the head. And actually this is admittedly a bit of a debugging feature because sometimes they get stuck, and so you can just give them a little bap on the head and they'll wake up and reset. And we have level 2 bap, which is less of a bap and more of a flick, and you give them a flick, they get a bit angry with you, but you use this when they are addressing their needs, whether they're resting or chatting or eating, and you don't want them to. You can give them a flick and say, hey, get back to your job, you were doing something, and they will do that. They'll get back to the task assigned. If you do it too many times, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but terrible things happen. And you have several options. So I really wanted to, those who played Black and White, I really wanted to capture the idea, the spirit of the game, which was to have very little UI overhead, and the majority of the game is kind of controlled by the hand and the interaction. But if you remember Black and White, it wasn't necessarily perfectly executed. The God Hand was great. But UI, especially when interacting with buildings and certain objects, it was a bit cumbersome at times. And so in this game you switch between, so you can control the God Hand, you interact with anything in the world, but when it comes time to interact with the UI, you can see around the outside we have various panels, settlement levels, you have food, resources, and in particular you have the building menu, which you need to interact with using the UI hand. To do this, you just simply click middle mouse button, and you can switch in between. If you hate this, as my wife does, then you can simply just go into options and go into cursor only mode, and then you can interact with the world without the God Hand and simply just with a cursor. And it's the same cursor that interacts with both the world and with the UI. So there you go. That's the God Hand. That's the God Hand. Stay tuned for the next episode.